Hello, everyone. This is the fourth part of this story. If you haven't seen the previous ones, we recommend you watch it first. I returned to the city last night and immediately plunged into the whirlpool of events. I was in the city last night, and I was immediately immersed in the whirlpool of events. The lion's share were calls from combat. A few calls from unknown numbers, and to my great surprise, a few calls from Olga. What did she want? I called combat at once. Koida, we need to meet. There is a topic. How are you? Combat spoke with confident chopped phrases justifying his call sign. When and where? I also tried to be very brief. Let's do it tomorrow in the restaurant of the Plaza Hotel at 19 o'clock. They wouldn't let me in there with my face. Shave your face, spray cologne, and wash your jeans. Cut the crap. I'm waiting. Bye. Combat passed out. I went into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My face was like a face. Really, what was there to be fooled about? I smiled. I wonder what he wanted to offer me. I felt great. I could not even believe that there was a time when I could hardly move. My back did not hurt, only sometimes at night I woke up with a pain in my left leg as if reminding me of the past illness. I looked in the refrigerator. It was empty. Well, nothing. The situation was normal. I took a piece of lard and a jar of pickled mushrooms with me. When I left for town, I'll go get some bread. The doorbell rang. Strangely, I'm not expecting anyone. Olga was standing on the landing. Yes. Unexpected. What do you want? I really didn't want to see her. Euro. I'm begging you. Listen to me. She spoke softly, avoiding to meet my eyes. May I come in? Come into the kitchen, I said, letting the unexpected guest in. She sat down on the stool and for some time silently looked at the floor, gathering her thoughts. Euro. I left Igor. What is it such love was? Found a new friend. I really did not care about her problems with Igor and in general with anyone. I had no bread for dinner. That was what was bothering me the most. What about our baby? Did she plant it on Igor? Yura? It's not his baby. It's your son. I saw her eyes fill with tears. Igor took a DNA test, and that's where it all came out. What difference does it make? Mine, not mine, whatever. What are you doing here? You ran out of money. I looked at my watch, letting you know I don't have time for idle chit-chat. You made your choice. You and the kids. What do you want from me? Yura. The boy is sick. He needs money for treatment. No way. What's it got to do with me? I don't have any extra money. Yura. I'm begging you. He's in intensive care right now. The doctors say that if we don't operate soon, he'll die. I don't have any money. And the apartment, it can be sold. All year, you're out of your mind. Euro. We've lived together for 20 years. I remember. I interrupted her. When you betrayed me, when you left me, didn't you think of that? I suddenly thought that our conversation reminded me scene from a cheap melodrama. Euro, forgive me. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think about you. She was almost crying. I made a terrible mistake. I betrayed you, our family. She continued to speak, and I looked silently at my once, madly, beloved woman, the woman I would not hesitate to give my life for. The woman who had not hesitated to cynically betray me in my time of need. The woman who cut me out of her life and left me for another man. And now she suddenly came to her senses and asked for my help. Olga kept saying that the time she had spent without me had made her realize how much she loved me, that she only now understood that I was the only real man in her life. Her words lingered, lulled me into a fantasy that only I owned her heart. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She kept repeating that word like a spell, and I looked at her and imagined her kissing and caressing her lover. Did she really think I would believe her words? That she was confused, that she didn't know what she wanted. That this woman who cheated on me, had a child with her love, left me and spent her free time with another man and never thought of me, came back because it turns out she loved only me. In her time, she found an excuse for her meanness and did not hesitate to leave me. She had enjoyed her sensual pleasures with her lover more than once in his bed, and she had coldly planned the moment to give me one last fatal blow. My God! Did I seem so stupid to her, ready to believe all her lies? I listened in silence to her penitential monologue. I had something to say to her. When the heat was on, you remembered you had a husband. I was overwhelmed with emotion. I don't care about you or your. I did not finish. Olga suddenly fell to her knees. Yura, my dear, help me. He's just a little boy. It's not his fault. We're now living in my mom's one-room apartment. That's it. We would have sold mom's apartment, but we have nowhere to live. Olga burst into tears. Olga, go away. I turn away, so as not to see her tears. I don't care about her or her child. And try to stay out of my sight again. Olga felt something in my voice, and without wiping away her tears, she went towards the door. Yura, she wanted to say something else to me. Get out. I almost shouted. The front door slammed. I never got out for bread. Olga wandered down the first snow-covered street. She understood that there was no more hope. In desperation, she wanted to scream, and she clamped her hand over her mouth. Olga took the last trolleybus to the hospital her son was in. A separate room hooked up to a machine for artificial lung ventilation, tangled up in tubes and floors. By his bed, in a white robe draped over his shoulders, her mother, Saturday. Well, Olga shook her head negatively. Yura refused to help. She covered her face with her hands and wept silently. A single tear fell on the boy's face, and he opened his eyes. Olga saw that his pale bluish face began to turn pink. Suddenly something beeped and a red light went on in the machine. A nurse rushed into the room. Did you touch anything in here? She flipped a switch. No, said a frightened Olga. We have to call a doctor. What happened? Is he getting worse? Olga grabbed the nurse by the sleeve. Her nervous tension making it difficult to speak. On the contrary, he's breathing on his own. Well, hello, Koida. Hello, Combat. We hugged and kissed, then pulled away and looked at each other. Yes. Time does not spare even best friends. Combat was almost unchanged. Only his hair was white. But it suited him. Strict gray suit with a sparkle blue shirt, purple tie. A Swiss watch and latinum ring on the ring finger of his right hand completed the ensemble. We were having dinner in a chic restaurant on the 8th floor of the Plaza Hotel where Combat was staying. There was a great crowd, quick-witted waitresses, and an orchestra playing Latin American tunes. Antique furniture, vintage guitars on the walls, and the lights of a huge night city behind the large from floor-to-ceiling mirrored windows. Juicy chops had already been served, and we poured for the umpteenth time. Let's drink 2 hours without shouting, raised his shot glass and silently poured the vodka into his mouth. He squeezed his eyes shut for a second and exhaled. Well, what do you say? He went back to our conversation. I chewed a piece of chop inside. Do not sigh like a maiden before the wedding. You have a job to do. Combat picked up a sprat with a fork and put it on the bread. The salary is excellent, as they say, all inclusive. Full social package and all the rest. Well, you got it. You, as if I was recruited to a strip club. I laughed. Combat did not share my fun. We were quiet for a while. Well, what's your decision? Combat looked at his watch. I agree. When do we fly out? I'll call. My interlocutor stood up, making it clear that the audience was over. The doorbell rang. Olga hardly tore her head off the pillow. Sleepless nights were telling, and went to the door. "Who is it?" "A courier." "Olga Koida, is that you?" Olga opened the door. "What courier?" She wasn't expecting anyone. The young guy handed her a package. "This is for you, sign." Olga saw her surname on the package. "Who is it from?" "I don't know. My job is to deliver it. Goodbye." The guy turned and ran down the stairs. Olga went into the kitchen and carefully opened the envelope. She unfolded the documents folded in four. The deed to the apartment and the keys. God, she could not believe her eyes. Yura gave her his apartment. Olga sat down on a chair. Her legs were not holding her. There was a note in the envelope. She unwrapped the note with a trembling hand. Tears covered her eyes, but she managed to read it. "I'm not such a bastard anymore. Goodbye." There was no signature. The helicopter circled the bend of the Biwangi, propelling its brown waters. Landing. Combat commanded over the intercom. The helicopter tilted slightly, aiming at the narrow strip of beach bordering the jungle. The helicopter steadily landed just short of touching the approaching trees. The engine stopped, but the blades kept turning. "What's the situation?" came the voice of the platoon leader. Everything was normal. The navigator announced and opened the door. Soldiers in camouflage without insignia holding their machine guns at the ready began to jump out onto the sand, taking up a circular defense. Combat and I were the last to leave the helicopter. I habitually put the machine gun on my shoulder and looked for a local guide. "Well, it looks like it's over," said the combat behind me. I looked around perplexed, not sure what this was all about.